Welcome to part 3 of our lab setup. So what we're going to do in this lesson is finish setting up our Windows VM. So we've already saved a Windows VM and as a snapshot, and we have a clean install. So now what we want to do is to install VirtualBox guest editions. After we install the guest editions, we're going to download some PowerShell scripts, and then we will run one of those PowerShell scripts that actually installs Sysmon, and we will also enable PowerShell logging. Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off. So the first thing we want to do is start Windows 11, and where we left off was we had just saved the first snapshot called clean state, so Windows 11 is installed. So we're going to start it, and then we're going to install the guest editions, which the guest editions provides a set of software and drivers that can be installed on the guest operating system inside of VirtualBox. And these editions provide several benefits and enhancements to improve the integration and performance of the guest operating system within the virtual environment. And these enhancements include improved graphics, you can use shared clipboard, which will allow us to copy and paste commands from our host and from our walkthrough documents into our virtual machines. And it also will allow for time synchronization. So in order to install the guest editions, I'll go ahead and close those boxes, and you go to Devices and then select Insert Guest Editions. So it's pretty simple. Now we'll just need to log into Windows. And you notice we're not full screen. That is one of the advantages that guest editions will bring. So now that we've already selected the devices and the guest editions, you see now it shows up as like a CD drive. So we want to go ahead and open that, and I'll go to full screen. And we want to run this 64-bit. So it's VBox Windows Editions -AMD 64. And we're just going to right click that. And run as administrator. And of course, we want to select yes. And we'll go ahead and select the defaults on this. So just continue to select install or next. Okay, so once that's finished, it's going to require a reboot. So we can go ahead and click finish. All right, so it's rebooted. So what we want to do is go ahead and log back in. So we're logged back in. So remember I mentioned that this would go to full screen. Sometimes you have to help it by sort of minimizing the screen and then dragging it. And then once you see that glitch, that usually means that it worked and you can go to full screen. And now you have it so that it just it makes it a lot easier to work with when you're working inside that virtual machine. Now the other thing we want to do is go back to VirtualBox Manager. Make sure that it's the Windows 11 that is highlighted. And we want to go to Settings. And then under General, select the Advanced tab. And we want to go bidirectional on both the shared clipboard and the drag and drop. And this will just make it easy when we copy and paste commands when we're doing our labs. Now, obviously, if we were running malware on this Windows system, we would not want to enable copy and paste or any connection back to the host machine, but we're not doing that in this course. So we can just go ahead and select this to bidirectional. Okay, so that's the first part. The second thing we want to do is to install Sysmon. So in the walkthrough, there are some key links that we want to copy and run in our virtual machine. And what these are going to do, and we'll just open up the browser. And the first time you do not want to sync your data, because this is just a test. You don't want to ever confuse the stuff that you're doing in the lab with your home or personal accounts or work accounts. So you want to also deselect that, hit confirm and continue. And it will ask you basically 2 or 3 times, because Microsoft Edge really wants you to sync your data, but we're not doing that. So we'll continue without Google data. And we want to make sure to deselect that and confirm and start browsing. So now we're there. So the first link that we want is we're going to a file share and we're going to download a Sysmon configuration. So we'll just select download and select keep. And we'll go ahead and download everything that's in the walkthrough. So the next thing we want to download is an Atomic Red Team script, and we'll use that when we do some testing. But once again, we just need to, you can either copy the link from the walkthrough and paste it into your browser, and then select download again. And this is, as I mentioned before, an Atomic Red Team attack script that we will use later in the course. So go ahead and select keep. And then go to the third link, which is to the Atomic Red Team cleanup script. And I'm putting all these just in different tabs so you see them. And select download. And we want to keep it. All right, we have everything downloaded that we're going to need to complete this part of the lab. So now what we want to do is to go to PowerShell. We'll go ahead and we can close the browser. And we want to open a PowerShell terminal as administrator. So start to type in PowerShell and then select run as administrator and select yes. So since we're going to be running PowerShell commands, we're going to have to set the execution policy to unrestricted that will allow us to run PowerShell commands. So by default, it's always this execution policy is set to restricted, because since PowerShell has came out, has really been abused a lot by malicious actors. So there's no need to allow PowerShell scripts to run if it's not needed. And most general users do not run PowerShell scripts. So by default, it is disabled, or the status is restricted. Now, before I do that, what I want to do, every time you open the PowerShell window as administrator, it opens in the Windows System 32 folder. I just don't like to operate in that folder. So by best practice, what I'll do is change to the users folder, and then the user is student, and I'll just run this from the downloads folder, because in the downloads folder is where we just downloaded those scripts. And just to show that, I'll run ls, and those are those PowerShell scripts that we just downloaded. But before we can actually run those scripts, we need to set the execution policy. So that's the command. It's just set execution policy unrestricted, and we're forcing that. And then it's done. So now what we can do is go ahead. First thing we'll do is install Sysmon. So I'm going to run this install script. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about this script. So it was originally authored by Robert Rodriguez, and it's been modified to use our tuned Sysmon modular configuration. Of course, Sysmon modular was created by Olaf Hartung, but we are using a tuned version of it for our environment. And it's basically the entire script is designed to automate the deployment of Sysmon on a Windows system. And of course, Sysmon is a powerful tool for Microsoft sysinternals, and it monitors logs system level events such as process creation, network connections, and registry changes. So it's really valuable for like threat detection and forensic investigations. So as we look at the script, it begins by defining a parameter for the Sysmon configuration file, and it points to a URL where the custom XML-based configuration can be downloaded. It then prints a message indicating that the installation process has started, and it performs DNS lookups for several domains, including the download sysinternals.com, github.com, and the raw GitHub user content.com. And this helps confirm that the system has internet access and it can reach these necessary resources. So after that, the script downloads the official Sysmon archive from Microsoft, and it stores it in the C program data directory. It then extracts the contents of that zip file and identifies the path to the Sysmon executable. Now, after it ensures that the binary is available, it proceeds to download the Sysmon configuration file from the provided URL, and it saves it locally as an XML file. Now, this configuration dictates which system events Sysmon should monitor and log. So once both the Sysmon binary and configuration file are available, the script installs Sysmon as a Windows service, and we'll go ahead and use that accept EULA flag to automatically accept the license agreement. It will then configure the service to start automatically at boot, and then it will ensure appropriate access to the Sysmon event logs. And the script sets the permissions on the Microsoft Windows Sysmon operational channel so that the system processes, administrators, and event log readers can access it. And finally, the script checks whether the Sysmon service is running. If not, it will attempt to start it and will wait until the service reaches the running state. And then we'll receive a confirmation message. It will be displayed that once Sysmon is verified to be running. Now, this end-to-end automation helps streamline the deployment of Sysmon across systems, making it easier to implement enhanced endpoint detection and logging with minimal manual intervention. So usually in most labs, you'll set this up manually, but this log or the script is just intended to automate that entire process. That automation also scales very well if you're deploying it across multiple systems. So to install Sysmon, since we're in the downloads folder where it's at, we can just take advantage of the autocomplete. So I'll start to type install, and then I'll hit the tab, and you'll see it will autocomplete. And from there, I'm just going to hit enter. And we do want to go ahead and select R for run once. And now it's reaching out, it's downloading Sysmon, and you can see it starting, and now we're verifying that Sysmon is running. And that is complete. So Sysmon is now installed, and we can confirm that if we go to the event viewer. So just start to type in event viewer, it'll pop up, select yes. And we want to select applications and services. And it will take a couple seconds when you first select application and services logs. Now you can see the options to go to Microsoft and then Windows. And now we want to scroll down to Sysmon. And once you select Sysmon, hit the drop down and then choose operational. And you can see now we're logging Sysmon logs. There's at least 60 events already logged. So that completes the Sysmon installation. So now that we have confirmed that Sysmon is working, what we can do is we want to enable PowerShell logging. So to do that, we want to go to group policy. So once again, you start typing it in the window on the bottom and then go to edit group policy. And at this point, I'm going to minimize those windows, and we'll make this a little larger so we can see it. All right, so the group policy for PowerShell that we need to enable, we want to go to under computer configuration, we want to go to administrative templates, down to Windows components and hit the drop down, and then go down to Windows PowerShell. There's Windows PowerShell. We select that, and then on the right we have these policy settings. We want to turn on script block logging. So we'll just double click that. It's going to open this window, and we want to select enable. And we'll go ahead and select log script block invocation start and stop events. We'll go ahead and select OK, and we see that it is enabled. So now what we've done is we have installed PowerShell logging, and we installed Sysmon as well as guest editions. So now that we've made major changes to our virtual machine, we'll do the same thing we did at the end of the last lesson. We are going to power it down. And the reason we're powering it down is we want to take another snapshot because we've made some major changes. So we'll select take, and under the snapshot name, we want it to reflect what we've just done to it. So we can name it Sysmon and PowerShell logging. And then in the description, we can go ahead and type in guest editions, just so we know that the guest editions was installed on this snapshot. And then we can select OK. And really the reason we're taking these snapshots is in case we break it in the next lab, instead of building from scratch, we can just jump back to the last part that was working. So in the next lesson, we will be talking about log ingestion. So after the lecture, we will have a lab where we will actually ingest logs from both the Windows machine and the Linux machine into Splunk. So I will see you in the first lecture for log ingestion.